r/AskReddit by Redmond Dtes. What is the most unhealthy thing you've seen a human do? There was a player at the casino who used to come in his mobility scooter, order Red Bull and vodka over and over, smoke unfiltered Camels, and play 3 video poker machines at a time for 36 to 48 hours. He weighed 380 at least, hated the entire world, and ordered food only from the fried chicken place. One day I went to wake him up, and he was dead. So I'd go with that. Saw a guy chase 6 energy drinks with a cigarette and call it breakfast while saying sleep is a scam. I'm convinced his organs have a group chat to plan their escape. Turn off their oxygen tank so they could have a smoke. That's real dedication. Have a baby after a domestic violence incident, thinking it would fix the situation. All that does is make everything worse. A bad relationship will only get worse after a baby, and I've never seen even one exception. Pour Mountain Dew into a baby bottle and hand it to their toddler. When I worked at Starbucks, one that will stay with me was the day that a mom ordered a coffee-based frappuccino for her 2-year-old, and the sticker said personal cup, and the personal cup was a sippy cup, because she won't drink it otherwise. So why the fuck are you force-feeding your toddler frappuccino? I once saw a guy spraying spray paint in his mouth to get high. Normally when people do thus, they would use some fabric to filter everything except the gas, but well he didn't, and his mouth was sprayed in black paint. Would not recommend getting high like that either way. I once watched someone with a food addiction shoving food into their mouth so fast they hadn't chewed what was already in there, and some fell out when they opened their mouth to take more bites. They started shoving the food in with their fingers and kind of compacting it so they could chew. They were also shaking the entire time they were doing it and snorting because they could barely breathe. It was horrific. My dad smoked 4 to 10 packs of cigarettes a day, drank a 12-pack a day, ate a combination of sit-down and fast food at all times, with beanie wieners as well, slept about 4 hours a night, and at one point was whoring around with, by his claims, 14 prostitutes. This went on for most of 30 years. He stopped the smoking and drinking after his second near-death experience. The prostitute situation kinda dwindled in the 2010s. He rotates between 3 or 4 women, depending on who's pissed off at him. He also had recurring skin cancer for 23 years and spent 3 years in prison. Which did blunt the drinking. He had a buddy supplying him cash for smokes though. He's dangerously close to living an average lifespan, which begs the question, just how long would this medical Highlander have lived if he didn't spend 30 years trying to kill himself? Oh, and he's extremely anti-weed. He fired his mate over what he thought was a weed vape. Google said it was a nicotine vape. When I was a teen, I was a drunk. I would often go days without eating. One time I blacked out, woke up at home, ran to my toilet and started puking. Little did I know, when I opened my eyes, I'd be met with dark black and brown coffee grounds. My toilet was filled, it was on the seat, everywhere. I had no recollection of my day. I continued to puke before cleaning up and going to bed. I continued to drink for 6 months after, continuing to puke coffee grounds occasionally. I never got checked. I mentioned it to my doc a few years later at 18, and he said I'd probably burned a hole in my esophagus that started to bleed into my stomach. Since the symptoms had stopped after I quit drinking, he didn't investigate further. Edit. Before people ask, where were your parents? They're junkies. I lived in the trap. I was fucking off by example. Edit 2. While people are reading this comment, I wanna say thank you for the kind words. I was a very young girl, and it was scary for me. The fact that I continued to drink was hurtful to look back at, and the countless times it happened after. As a mother now, I recognize how little I was. No child at that age, 12 to 17, should put themselves in the dangerous situations I found myself in. I appreciate everyone who's wishing me well. I wish every child who walks this earth alone the safety and luck I have had. I was behind a person in a drive-thru once. She was in an SUV, and it sagged on the driver's side. Half expected the suspension to break. She ordered a medium ranch dressing. The person taking the order was understandably confused, so the lady figured it would help to scream her order. Finally she said, "A medium drink cup filled with ranch dressing." She pulled over to the side after she got her food. I passed her on my way out, and she was taking a huge bite of her burger and drinking the ranch as a chaser. Like it was actually her beverage. I have not eaten ranch dressing to this day. I was parked in a Walmart parking lot somewhere in the Fort Lauderdale area while eating some lunch on the way to the Florida Keys while on a road trip. I saw a guy that had just come out of the store walk into a brushy area about 15 feet wide between the parking lot and the main road. He took a can of compressed air out of his Walmart bag and huffed it until he got so dizzy he stumbled and fell over into a bush. I lost sight of him and was wondering if I should check on him or just call 911. About 5 minutes later, he got up, looked around, pulled his Walmart vest out of the bag, then, presumably, went back to work. I worked at Starbucks in college. We had a morbidly obese woman come through the drive-thru every weekday morning. Her order: 26-shot white chocolate mocha with 11 pumps of syrup, whole milk, coat the inside of the cup with caramel sauce, whipped cream. I believe we calculated it to about 1500 calories. Inject methamphetamine while saying vaccines are poison. I have a friend who only eats pepperoni pizza for every meal and drinks Diet Pepsi. Man has not had water in 10 years. Wouldn't say it's the worst thing I've seen, but a girl around 22 I worked with for about 2 years said she has only drank coffee and caffeinated drinks for a good 10 plus years, never drank water because she didn't like it for some reason. Complained often about having headaches, stomach pain, joint pain, overweight, eye issues, and various other issues. Kept on her for the duration of me working there, and towards the last 6 months of being there, I noticed she had a half-gallon water jug and asked her why the sudden change. Said she went to the doctor the other day and told me all of the things the doctor said to change. Namely, quit caffeine and drink and eat healthier. By the time I left, she lost a good amount of weight and basically never complained about the issues said earlier. Another one I witnessed was from an ex-girlfriend. She had been drinking well over a 12-pack of Mountain Dew with minimal water a day for around 10 years. Doctor told her she was forming a hole in her stomach from the excess soda drinking. Never stopped her though. In high school, a kid put paint thinner in an empty can of chewing tobacco and would huff it with the strength of 3 Kirby's. He was ripping at it for an hour straight for days in class, so who knows what that shit did. Setting a bag of pork rinds and a 2-liter bottle of Pepsi on the nightstand, so her toddler kids wouldn't wake her up for food in the mornings. And lectured me about working, rather than collecting welfare, and staying home with my teenage kids after their dad died. I had a patient once get an infection in a very small surgical wound that started out as 1 centimeter wide. Well, he knew something was wrong, but didn't get it checked out until he couldn't lay on his back anymore. He had a flesh-eating bacteria called necrotizing fasciitis that ended up eating his skin from the middle of his thighs all the way up to his middle back. It was so bad that when he came into the hospital, he was given about a 30% chance of surviving. I'll never forget that smell. I was in an alley in a rough area of town with some colleagues shooting a scene for a video project. I saw a man who was probably close to my age slowly work his way along the wall, looking for and finding used drug needles. When he found one, he would inject it into his arm and push the plunger down for what I assume was the last small amount of drugs that might be still in the vial. It was extremely hard to see. It's the saddest moment I've ever witnessed. Someone with such unmanaged diabetes that they have had 6+ surgeries, removing toe after toe, chunk of foot after chunk of foot. She has stubs 4 feet now, no toes, and she continues to eat sweets and fast food. She's basically immobile now, unless she has special shoes on, and uses a walker, which she usually chooses not to use. She sleeps sitting up on her couch. Her adult children provide all of the sweets and food for her, because she is her own person. If she wants it, she can have it. Edit to at, she had a quad bypass a year and a half ago, and multiple people brought her cookies and jams in the hospital. I once worked with a frequent flyer with alcoholism, whose teenage son had to drive to the hospital for detox. She would always be bloody from her falls. I heard from a coworker that they found her deceased in a restaurant parking lot on their lunch break, bottle still in hand. There is a place in Vegas called the Heart Attack Grill, where customers over 350 pounds eat free. They serve burgers up to 64 ounces. If you don't finish, you are paddled by a nurse, then escorted to your car in a wheelchair by your own private nurse. Deep fried stick of butter. America, you are something. We had a neighbor who did a bunch of acid and hit himself in the back with a sledgehammer to prove he was superhuman. He wasn't. I heard he died not long after we moved out. My brother started drinking and drugs at age 10 or 11. He smoked all his life and got drunk every day he could. He died at 56, leaving his wife behind. He never had any reflection moment where he decided to try to get better. When he died, he weighed 90 pounds, had a 4-inch hole in his esophagus with some kind of a tumor, and I found out that he had been eating an entire bag of Hall's Methyleptus, maximum strength cough drops every day for 8 years. He would never go to the doctor. He got what he wanted, I guess. I have a friend who just like consistently has bug infestations in her apartment, no matter where she lives. They're in her appliances and goes with her when she moves. Was in the ER because I broke my arm, and this homeless guy is brought in on a stretcher because he injected drugs in his eyeball. The idea of choosing your eye as an injection point. Wow. I once knew someone who lived on only energy drinks, instant noodles, and cigarettes for months. Barely slept, constantly stressed, and refused to go to the doctor even when they were clearly crashing. It was like a slow motion train wreck. That's all, folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.